This year has been one for Antarctic anniversaries. The centenary celebration of Sir Douglas Mawson's expedition south and 100 years since Sir Robert Scott's ill-fated expedition to the South Pole. There's another anniversary that a small group of Antarctic expeditioners were determined to remember. It's been 50 years since the deaths of a handful of American expeditioners in a plane crash near one of Australia's former bases. Linda Hunt tells this story, along with her brother, Dr. Mark Hunt, who is one of the expeditioners.
We could see it just after it lifted off. There was this huge sheet of flame and black smoke coming out the back because of the smoke and the fumes in the cockpit, so they couldn't even see the horizon, they couldn't see their instruments, so they had no chance of landing safely.
These were the extraordinary images that confronted Antarctic expeditioner Bill Birch a little over 50 years ago.
Well, it was unreal. It was a bit like a sort of nightmare, really.
Bill Birch is recalling the crash of the American plane Neptune on November the 9th, 1961. The plane with 9 crew on board was en route to McMurdo Station. It had stopped at the Australian base Wilkes in East Antarctica to refuel.
We hadn't had a visitor since the ship departed back in January. We called ourselves Banana Belt Airlines, and we were the ground staff, and we went through all the nonsense. The dogs came up, and we brought the dog team up, which the Americans were very keen to see. So we had a lot of fun. There was a bit of a party that night.
Bill Birch was at Wilkes working as a geophysicist.
Being only just 22 as I was at the time I went down, it was a life-changing experience, really. Just awesome. The magnitude of the scenery around you just completely swamps anything that we're used to in our normal daily lives here.
He was also the official photographer and was filming the next day when the Neptune crashed shortly after takeoff. When his 16mm film ran out, Bill Birch continued recording the scene with his still camera. One
of the bodies that I discovered the next day when I was asked to go around and document the wreckage, he was the one that very clearly became obvious to me as to who it was because of his teeth. He was a very handsome, tall, young American. I called him the All-American boy. He was the classic sort of TV-style image that we had of Americans in those days.
5 Americans lost their lives. The 4 survivors were cared for by the Australians.
They were obviously very badly shocked, so we just took them straight back to the base and looked after them for 3 days until the Hercules came in to rescue the survivors and retrieve the bodies.
50 years on, the tragedy hasn't been forgotten. A group of wintering expeditioners recently paid tribute, holding a ceremony near the spot where the Neptune went down.
We've also come here to dedicate a plaque as a memorial to the tragedy and to help us in future remember the people who died and who were otherwise affected by the tragedy.
Wilkes Station closed in 1969 and was replaced by Casey. The old base and the plane wreck are now almost permanently covered in ice.
And eventually everything that we do and everything that happens here will disappear, and if we don't make a concerted effort to remember it, then we'll lose it. Lieutenant Junior Grade.
My brother Mark is 5 months into a 15-month stint as Casey's station leader and organised the memorial.
So I think it's very poignant that in the centenary year of Australia's involvement in the Antarctic, we also remember that it's the 50th anniversary of the wreck of the Neptune, and I think it's important that we remember all of those pivotal events in the history of Antarctic exploration.
For Bill Birch, that time saw people pull together in a spirit unique to the icy continent.
You put a group of Antarctic people in a room and you've got a noisy crowd in no time. There's a sort of natural camaraderie, so the same thing happened with our American visitors.
It's been a tradition in Antarctica that nations all collaborate. ever since the Antarctic Treaty came into force, and that reserved Antarctica as a continent of peace and science.
Signed in 1959, Australia was one of the 12 original parties to the treaty. The international collaboration so gallantly displayed when the Neptune crashed underpins that treaty.
It was in the depths of the Cold War, and yet in the Antarctic it was a really warm-hearted collaboration because there's this natural camaraderie between people in those extreme conditions.
The Antarctic Treaty System is a pretty unique instrument in international affairs. It stems from that treaty that collaboration is the norm rather than the exception in Antarctica. And also because of that isolation, Antarctica is a long way away and a very expensive continent to inhabit. There's also a drive to share logistics, share operational support and share scientific endeavour.
Down at Casey, winter is approaching. The summer expeditioners have sailed home and only 19 remain for the long, isolated months ahead.
We're all looking around to see where everybody's gone. There's a real sense of change. There's a sense of loss in some ways because friends have gone. But also it really marks the start of our winter. And most of us came down here to experience the winter. It's the really special time and the challenging time for us.